Hey there, audio friends. Welcome back to the channel. MrAyrit here, and today I've got another R2R DAC for you. Now, this one is one that, intrigued me for a long time. It's the Airist R2R DAC. Now, this used to be available on Mass Drop. I haven't really ever seen or heard of anything else from the brand Airist, so I'm not... I guess I'm not really sure what else they do. But anyway, I was looking at one of these ever since I started getting into R2R DACs. They're not super easy to come by at this point in time. So when one popped up, for a good deal, I snatched it up so I could give it a try. And this is going to be a pretty quick review, actually, because I do really like this DAC. As you all know, if you've been following the channel at all, the Cayin RU6 is kind of my favorite go-to R2R DAC. It's only a couple $100 on the used market, which you can easily find them. Even if you buy it brand new, it's maybe like $250. So I definitely recommend that, and I'm going to drop a link to the review for that down below, because largely I think the two sound fairly similar with one kind of major difference, or one maybe not super major, but one difference. Okay, so let's look at the build of the Airist R2R, and then we'll get into that description of sound. Okay, but the Cayin RU6, because I'm going to compare this to that heavily, I would definitely recommend you watch that too. Okay, so form factor for the Airist R2R DAC. It's it's the drop form factor, which I like. It's very simple, understated, black. It's probably the same thickness and footprint as the AAA1 amplifier. The 789 would be like a little bit thicker, but I think this is probably about the same, maybe the exact same box as the AAA1. And it's a good size. It's on the larger size. It's about the size of a Mac Mini, but like, these things are solid on your desk, right? They're harder to push around than like the smaller, like Modi footprint DACs, which I appreciate very much. Okay, it's a simple device. On the front, all you've got is one power button, and then you've got an input button to change from optical coax or USB. Around the back, you've got RCA outs, you got an optical in, a coax in, a USB in, and then your power source in, your power cable in. The power cable is nothing fancy, it's just a little wall wart cable. So that's all there is to that. So it's pretty simple. The build is adequate for what it is, again, on par with the rest of the Mass Drop stuff, if you're wondering about that. So how does it sound? Well, it sounds like the Cayin RU6, which means that's a good thing, right? It's got kind of that organic, natural sound that R2R just seems to kind of have. It does spatial information really well. It does little nuanced, details really well. The one big difference between this and the RU6 is this is a little more incisive on the top end. It's got a little more bite up top. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I mean, it really depends on what amp you're pairing it with, what headphones you're listening to, or speakers, or what have you. So it's really not a good thing or a bad thing. So for instance, when I'm listening to my Quicksilver amplifier, for the most part, I prefer to run that from the RU6. The Quicksilver is very exciting, it's very lively, so I feel like that smoothness and sweetness of the RU6 fits it a little bit better than the R2R from Airist, which has, just like I said, just a little more bite, a little more sparkle, a little bit more of an edge up top. Now, I recently did a comparison between the OG Schiit Valley 2 and the MT602 from X Duo, and the X Duo was a very sweet sounding amplifier. I thought it was a little rolled off on the top end, had a lot of like warmth to it, and it was just a super smooth. And so when that combined with the RU6 was just like a little too much, where it was just smoothed over, like the top end specifically was just a little smoothed over, and I didn't like that. It was just rounded off a little bit too much. Okay, enter the Airist R2R, which paired phenomenally well with the MT602, better than the RU6, I would say. So again, it's really going to depend on your headphones and your amps and all that stuff. Here's what I would say is, if you got an RU6 and you think it's just doesn't have quite enough bite to it, doesn't have quite enough of an edge up top, you want a little bit more there, look for one of these bad boys, and I think you'll be probably pretty happy. Okay, so it's a good DAC. I wouldn't overlook it personally. If you can find a good deal on one, which I would say is $300 or less, is probably a pretty good deal for one of these. Okay. Other than that, I think this is a quick one. That's an easy one to do, right? Am I going to keep this? Undecided at this point in time. I think I'll probably sell it just because I like the RU6s so much, but you know, I don't know. I'd have to get what I want back out of it, right? So that's where I'm at with the Airist R2R. Again, if you can find one, I think they're worth a look, especially if you're new to R2R and you want to try it out. This or the RU6, I think, are your best options. So with that being said, do you have opinions on the Airist? If you have, drop those down below. Thanks for always for watching and listening, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, everybody.